Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of a predictions video on the channel. Today, the Las Vegas night race is coming up for the NASCAR Cup Series here tonight. I'm going to give you guys my fantasy lineup advice, drivers to stay away from in today's race, a possible dark horse pick or two, as well as my must-haves that you guys should have in your lineups for tonight's race. First and foremost, so the driver who I most importantly think you guys should stay away from tonight is Denny Hamlin. Hamlin obviously has been on a little bit of a recent slide as of late, although he did win one of the stages in the Southern 500 a couple weeks ago. As well, he won one of the, or sorry, no, he did not win a stage there, but he did win a stage at Richmond, is what I meant to say. He won a stage at Richmond, but the finishes have not come great for Denny Hamlin. He has finished outside the top 10 in each of the first three playoff races, and in the last 9 races at Las Vegas, he's only got 3 top 10s to show for. So that is not very good statistical success there. He finished well outside the top 10 and 17th there earlier this season and did not run well as a whole there. Really, Joe Gibbs Racing as a whole did not run well in that race earlier this season. They're not the same team compared to what they have been in recent weeks or really over the second half of the regular season. But again, Denny Hamlin, his track record not that great here at this racetrack. And knowing that there are a couple other tracks before the end of the season that you could probably play him in, simply because he is that much better, I wouldn't worry about wasting one of his usages here tonight. I don't expect him to run particularly well. It wouldn't surprise me if he got a top 10, but I think with stage points and everything else considered, for one, it's not safe. For two, I just think there's better options out there. Possible dark horse picks for today's race. I'm going a little on the limb here with both of these dark horse picks, but the first guy is going to be Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Yes, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., but if he gets to the end of the race, I think he'll have a good finish. He has finished in the top 10 in 2 of the last 3 Las Vegas races, and he led 5 laps. Yes, only 5 laps, but he still led 5 laps when he finished in 7th place here, the third to last race, and then earlier this season he came home in 3rd and also led 30 laps in that race as well. So they had decent speed in that race car. Of course, he's driving that same 47 car this weekend, so maybe luck can turn around for him. If he can get to the end of the race, expect him to be inside the top 15 and maybe even competing for a top 10 if all goes well from there. The next driver there is going to be Austin Dillon. Austin Dillon also finished in the top 10 at Vegas earlier this season. In fact, finished in 4th place. For Austin Dillon, though, it's a little different. I think more so he's got a better chance of finishing more consistent here. Even though his recent success at the track outside of the race earlier this year isn't quite as good as Ricky Stenhouse's, but because not only he's in better equipment than what Stenhouse is in, he's also had a lot of success lately. Of course, Austin Dillon was able to point his way from the round of 16 into the round of 12, and I think he can have a pretty consistent night here tonight. I think he's going to be a contender to finish inside the top 10 again. Here at this racetrack like he did earlier this season. If he can score stage points along the way, that's really going to help propel him into the next round. So if we get any late race cautions, expect Austin Dillon to be one of those guys to maybe even stay out and try to get all the stage points he possibly can get for this race today. Now, my must-haves. These are drivers I think you should have in your lineup tonight no matter what. And it's pretty simple. All 3 drivers, they're all the Penske drivers. Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, and Ryan Blaney are my must-haves. They will be in my lineup tonight, and I think they should be in all of your guys' lineup. Here's why. First and foremost, we'll start off with Brad Keselowski. Brad Keselowski, in the last 9 Las Vegas races, has finished inside the top 10, so he's got a pretty good streak going there. In that 9-race stretch, he's got 3 wins and 2 second-place finishes in that 9-race stretch. Keselowski is the man at this racetrack over about the last decade. Another driver who has been the man at the racetrack is his teammate, Joey Logano. Logano has finished in the top 10 in the last 8 races at Las Vegas, and he has 2 wins in that stretch, and both of those wins coming in 2 of the last 3 races. He won the race earlier this season, led over 50 laps in that race, had one of the stronger cars, and then he won here in the spring race last year in 2019, both with the same 550 horsepower rules package. He will be one of my favorites to win tonight's race. I think he'll score a lot of points, both in stages and in the race finish. And Ryan Blaney, the final of those 3 Penske drivers. Although Blaney did not make it to this round of the playoffs, and that could concern me as far as his overall team's morale coming into this week, I'd have to assume that probably decreased the momentum they had significantly. But Blaney has run well in these races with the 550 horsepower package this season. in particularly the mile and a half. He's had some pretty good race-winning cars over the course of the year. He almost won this race earlier this season. If it wasn't for a caution with 2 laps to go, he was likely going to win the race, or at least it would have came down between him and Bowman. He would not have finished 11th like he did. In his 6 Las Vegas Motor Speedway starts, he does have 4 top 10s, and one of those races that he finished outside the top 10 was 11th again in that race earlier this year, where he led 19 laps, but again, he almost won the race. He was very close in that one. So I think Blaney's going to have a good car. I think he'll be competing for stage points throughout the course of the night tonight. Now, he's one of those drivers, though, if there's late race cautions in the stages, that he might not score the points because he will decide to pit. He's not fighting for a championship anymore. He'll be looking for wins from here on out. So I wouldn't be surprised in that scenario to see him maybe not get the stage points if something like that came to be, with it being a playoff race. And we have seen some pretty dramatic moments in the playoff race at Vegas the last 2 seasons since they moved this race to a second date, or gave this racetrack a second date. I think there will be some added drama, especially now that it is in the round of 12 instead of the round of 16. So even more on the line this late into the season. But again, the 3 Penske guys, I think all 3 of them are must-haves, especially Logano and Keselowski. That is without a doubt. So now we're going to take a look at who I have in my fantasy lineup for tonight's race. Well, first and foremost, we're going to put those Penske guys in the lineup here. So we're going to take Clint Boyer out. There we go, a little bit of a delay there. So we're going to put Joey Logano in the lineup. Now you see Ryan Blaney is already in the lineup from last week, and Keselowski, who was in the garage, he had that power steering issue, so I had to move him to the garage before the end of the second stage last week, but he will likely end up being in that starting lineup come race and here tonight. But Chase Elliott, he ran really well here earlier this season. Actually, I did say that Blaney almost won the race. Remember, it was Chase Elliott who actually led the most laps in that race earlier this season. If it wasn't for him getting in the wall early in stage 3, he likely would have had a great shot to win it. He ended up flat spotting the tire, finished outside the top 10 from that point. It was a non-factor with the damage and lost all that track position. But Chase Elliott had a fast race car. And I think he'll be up there towards the front for the most part here tonight as well. So we're going to keep Chase Elliott in the lineup again here tonight. We moved Eric Almirola. We're going to bench him. We're going to put Kevin Harvick in the lineup. Harvick starts on the pole. He also led a lot of laps in this Vegas race earlier this season. He actually led the second most behind Elliott. Kyle Busch, he is running in his hometown here tonight, but I'm going to trust his teammate Martin Truex Jr. with the recent success that Truex has had. Plus, Truex, although it's not 2017 and he isn't quite as consistent on the mile and a half compared to what he was back with that rules package, with the 550 rules package, he still runs well at the mile and a half racetracks, needless to say. And nevertheless, for Martin Truex Jr.'s sake, he has been on an absolute tear as of late. Outside of that Darlington race, again, we knew he was having a top 4 streak. Outside of that Darlington race, he had 8 of 9 races inside the top 4. Granted, none of those were wins. And he didn't run too well at Bristol last week, but Bristol is one of his worst racetracks statistically, so I wasn't expecting him to run well. Here tonight at Vegas, on the other hand, it's a little bit different story. He is starting a little bit further back. He's starting 11th, but with the lack of playoff points coming into the playoffs, you have to assume he's going to be fighting for every stage point he can as well. So Truex will fill out the last spot in the lineup for today's race. So I feel really confident about my lineup tonight at Vegas. Hopefully you guys do too. Now my pick to win the race. And we're going to play it safe here because I'm going to take Joey Logano to win the stages here in this one, as well as to win the race. I'm going out on the limb here. I really want to take Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's been a little bit better this season, although Logano did win this race earlier this year and won 2 of the last 3 races at Las Vegas. Keselowski and him have definitely been the 2 best drivers over the last decade at this racetrack. But I'm going to go Joey Logano, go out on the limb a little bit here with today's pick. We haven't predicted the winner right in the last 5 races, I believe now. So we're on a little bit of a slide there, although the fantasy team's been doing well. So we're going to take Joey Logano and Penske to go to victory lane here tonight. I would not be surprised if all 3 of their cars were in the top 10 most of the night, as I just mentioned. So that is a look at, or there is the lineup, I should say, for tonight's race. Again, Joey Logano, Chase Elliott, Kevin Harvick, Martin Truex Jr., Ryan Blaney, and Keselowski. And obviously 5 will be starting with my prediction to win the race being Joey Logano for tonight's race. Comment down below your thoughts on my predictions as well as predictions of your own for tonight's race at Vegas. Stay tuned for the post-race analysis video also coming up later tonight after the race. Hope to see you guys for that one. And subscribe, most importantly, for more daily NASCAR content, such as videos like this, as well as full race NASCAR video game live streams with a realistic broadcast on top of these predictions and post-race analysis videos with the fantasy lineup advice. Thanks for tuning in, everybody, and I'll catch you later.